Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's Synastry is between Bobbi Kristina Brown and Nick Gordon. When Nick entered Bobbi Kristina's life, he showed up with a full cast of mythic asteroids sitting on her midheaven: Nemesis, Electco, Karma, and Fantasia. This is not just a love story. This is an old curse lighting up the top of her chart. Her reputation was never just her own. In this synastry, you see fingerprints of revenge, retribution, and fantasy. A love written like a Greek tragedy, under the public eye. Now, Electco is the relentless Greek fury of anger and vengeance. And this asteroid sits on her midheaven like a vulture. His Electco says, "You can run, but I am always overhead, circling your name and gnawing on your reputation." And it's dragging the punishment out until the final act. Also there is Nemesis, and that brings betrayal and an enemy-like energy to the place where everyone can see it. Karma on her midheaven, it turns the whole relationship into karmic theater. It's because it's in front of an audience. It sits right at the top of the chart. Now, Fantasia is the dream and the fantasy. But here, the fantasy is tangled with vengeance and payback. The dream of love is haunted by the tragedy of toxic love. Now, what is going on behind the scenes with these two? His Melpomene and Medea conjuncts her IC. This is what nobody sees because it's at the bottom of the chart. So while the whole world stares at the spectacle up at the midheaven, the base of the chart, the IC, is soaked in sorrow. Melpomene is the muse of tragedy, the script where love ends in grief. And when his Melpomene sits on her IC, the foundation of the chart, it looks like a home that is soaked in sadness, like grief. Like a grief as wallpaper inside. And there's tragic cycles in the private life: loss, mourning, and self-destructive patterns that bloom out of sight. Then you add Medea there. And behind closed doors, you get revenge woven into the roots of the house. And to make it louder, his Chiron conjuncts her Melpomene in the first house. This has to do with his pain. It fuses with her sorrow and heartbreak, and it stops being just background noise. It becomes the mask that she wears to the world. People see it on her face, and they see it on her face even if they don't know why or what's going on. Then we get to his Megara asteroid on her Cancer moon. Megara is another fury, the one who deals in jealousy and resentment. His Megara conjuncts her Cancer moon in pure astro Venom. Her moon wants safety, warmth, and home. And his Megara keeps stirring the pot. And that looks like emotional storms and drama that never quite settles. There's jealousy and resentment, and it creeps into every feeling of hers. It's very, it's like a constant ghost of suspicion haunting her emotional landscape. Now, Megara does not let things rest. Every feeling is up for interrogation and control. And at its worst, she never fully feels safe or settled with him. And it comes naturally to him because there is another fury here. Another fury that's stamped onto his chart. His Tisiphone conjuncts his North Node. Tisiphone is the enforcer of vengeance and punishment. And the North Node is your compass, one of your life themes. So put these two together, and the punishment and the reputation or the retribution, it's baked into his storyline. He's pulled towards paybacks, towards situations where someone has to be judged, punished, or avenged. Now, his Machiavelli conjuncts her North Node. This says the fate of this connection pulls her straight into the world of him being a smooth operator, the sweet talker, and the cunning strategist. With him, her destiny is not about innocence. In a healthier timeline, this aspect is about learning to spot the game and get out. But in her story, that insight came too late. Now, Machiavelli energy is cunning. It's rule bending, crossing boundaries, and doing what it takes, even if it's not moral. So with this contact, she is forced to recognize the manipulation and the cunning moves in love, and that's the destiny in her relationship with him. Now, his snow asteroid conjuncts his South Node, and snow is linked to opiates and addictions. On the South Node, that is not random. It is a soul-level baggage. Old patterns he keeps circling back to. And this looks like past life or deep pattern addiction. It's the old poison that keeps finding him. And the chart reads like whatever dragged him down before is still following him in this life. Now, his Proserpina conjuncts her South Node. Proserpina is Persephone energy. They're the same. One is Roman and the other one is Greek, but this is descent into the underworld. There's loss, abduction themes, and coming back changed. On her South Node, this means their connection drags up old underworld stories, abandonment, grief, power struggles, and that she already knows. She already knows the story. It feels very familiar to her. So with him as Proserpina on her South Node, he plays the underworld trigger. He pulls her back into cycles of losing herself, disappearing into someone else's darkness, then clawing her way back out of the depths of hell, or trying to. Now, her Persephone conjuncts his North Node, and that ties this myth down even tighter. She's not just caught in his story by she's not just caught in his story by accident. She's the girl coded into his path as the woman descending into the depths of darkness with innocence taken, and it's turned into a life in the shadows. So with her Persephone on his North Node, this chart locks them into a closed loop of descent and entrapment and toxicity because of the South Node and the North Node connections. She is the old underworld pattern and the present day replay of the same myth. And speaking of the underworld, his Pluto and Lilith in Scorpio conjuncts her Vertex. The Vertex is the fated doorway. It's the point where fate comes into play. Pluto is obsession, control, destruction, and deep transformation. Lilith is raw, taboo desire, the untamed side of feminine and sexual power. So when his Pluto and Lilith conjuncts her Vertex in Scorpio, he arrives in her life as a fated portal into the underworld. He brings obsession, control, taboo desire, and power games straight through that doorway. It's like a second ascendant. And it's magnetic, and it's very consuming and powerful. Now, her Valentine conjuncts his sun. and she brings pure devotion and love to him. She sees his light, and she loves his identity, but this gets corrupted by the rest of the aspects because her point of fortune and Nessus conjuncts his Valentine and Blow. So for him, loving her is not just sweet or simple. It's amplified and volatile. The point of fortune magnifies whatever it touches. And Nessus brings in abuse and toxic cycles. Valentine is romantic devotion, and Blow is arguments, volatility, and even the potential for explosive behavior. So for him, she becomes both the highlight and the chaos. The love is real, but the abuse is woven right through it. Attraction is magnetic, but what could have been sweet keeps getting swallowed up by toxic patterns due to Nessus and all of the other aspects that I explained. Now, his Mars conjuncts her Medea and Sun in Pisces. Mars is action, drive, anger, and heat. Medea is mythic revenge. The woman who burns the world down once she is betrayed. So, the sun is her core self. So when his Pisces Mars lands on her sun and Medea, he activates deep emotional undercurrents. Pisces makes his actions slippery, emotional, sometimes passive-aggressive, and sometimes explosive. He doesn't just light the match, he is the gasoline poured over the whole scene. So this is the kind of aspect where passion blurs into payback because of Medea, fights escalate fast, and anger carries a mission, a target, a story behind it. So in this connection, anger rarely comes alone. It arrives with a plan. Because his Vesta and Eris conjuncts her Venus in Aries, and his Pholus conjuncts her ascendant. Vesta is focus, devotion, and the sacred flame. Eris is discord, rivalry, and chaos through disruption. Venus in Aries is hot, impulsive, but direct in love. So, when his Vesta and Eris sits on her Venus, he can make her feel intensely seen and desired. That is the Vesta. But Eris here keeps throwing sparks into the relationship. There's drama, jealousy, competition, and wild cards. It's just part of the whole package. And love becomes high voltage, full of tension and constant ignition. So then, Pholus on her ascendant, it blows it wide open. Pholus is the small thing that sets off the big chain reaction. On her ascendant, he becomes the trigger. A comment or an argument or an incident, and that suddenly explodes into something huge because Pholus explodes the energies that it touches, and it comes right on her ascendant. So one tiny match, you have a very big fire. He is walking red flag energy. His Mercury in Taurus is fused with Taureau at 0 degrees. That's the tightest orb that you can get. Mercury is words, thoughts, and how you communicate. And Taureau is brute force, stubborn will here, and bulldozer behavior. So you put these together, and his way of speaking can feel like being pushed, cornered, or run over, or bulldozed. And add that to his chaos, and it conjuncts his sun, and his identity runs on messy, bossy, unpredictable energy. And then remember, he's got Tisiphone right on his north node. So his life direction pulls him straight into cycles of payback and drama. The communication here is not neutral. It's forceful, heated, and soaked in chaos. So in this chart, every major asteroid in this synastry screams the same thing: obsession, control, addiction, revenge, heartbreak, and tragedy. And this was not a fairy tale. This was a myth that always wanted a tragic ending due to Melpomene here. And all the other asteroids come together and tell the story. So that's all I have today with these two. And I will be back shortly with other synastry charts. So hit the subscribe button to stay in the loop, and like and share to support my channel. Have a nice day.